In today's video, I want to go over some wishlist characters for Marvel Rivals that I would absolutely love to see inside of the game. Now, I did have this list created for quite some time, and I did have some characters on here that unfortunately, well, actually not unfortunately, but fortunately, are actually going to be releasing. So I won't be covering the leaked characters. If you want to see the leaked characters, I'll have them down in the comment section below, and I will probably be doing a video on them in the future to kind of go over in detail on how they could play and stuff like that. Back to my wishlist itself. It's definitely a combination of characters that I feel like a lot of people haven't really mentioned. One of them that I have to say that I did have on here, but unfortunately I won't be mentioning, is Professor X. The fact that that is a leaked character is absolutely insane, and I'm so excited to see how he's actually going to be played, and he better, and I mean this, he better be on that wheelchair. But again, let's get right into the wish list. I'm going to just quickly mention the character and the class that I think they could go in. Duelists will unfortunately overpower all of it because I'm personally not as creative as I feel like the devs are. Obviously, you know, they give characters that you might think that would go to duelists, and they're like, actually, never mind, they would work better as strategists or healers themselves. So the first character that I have up is from Fantastic Four. It's going to be a mini Fantastic Four section, just because I do love the team itself, and I'm super excited to see the Thing and Human Torch coming in. And the first one is a villain that I guess could be a villain from different kinds of comics and stuff like that, from what I do know, and that is Annihilus. Now, this villain, from what I've heard, we're actually going to be seeing for the first time in a Nova show on Disney Plus, if that ever does actually come out. Nova might be potentially making a surprise appearance in this list, but that's more on that later. Now, Annihilus is a pretty cool villain that does have a lot of powers from the 0 point, so I feel like they could do a lot of really cool things with that, and he is obviously a villain, so I would love to see more villains being added to the game. I know we're going to be seeing like Ultron and stuff like that, but I feel like we should be seeing more of them, and Annihilus could introduce people to what the character is through Marvel Rivals, which I'm noticing the game itself is doing to a lot of people, which is really cool. And then potentially in the future we'll see live adaptations or animated adaptations, or just overall the knowledge of characters. Now, Annihilus, in my opinion, would be a duelist. I could potentially see him as a tank, but he'd have to be huge and big. But again, they made like Magneto a tank, which I don't think I would have ever expected a Magneto to be a tank, but it just makes sense. So maybe Annihilus could be a duelist or a tank, but either way, I think he could have some pretty cool abilities inside of the game. Next up is a Super Skrull, not just a Skrull, a super one. I think this will be a duelist. And if you don't know what a Super Skrull is, we did see them in the awful show adaptation, like probably the worst thing that MCU has ever developed. Personally, I absolutely love most of the projects that MCU develops, but the two worst are, in my opinion, is Secret Invasion and also Love and Thunder. And Secret Invasion is like the top list just because of how bad that show was, but also the fact that they just made one of the characters a Super Skrull, and then another character who has the Super Skrull powers but has the powers of all of the Avengers. So I guess if they'd want to, they could maybe do a combination of just the Fantastic Four, which we are obviously getting now in season 1 and season 1 part 2, or they could do the MCU-fication of it and just kind of give powers of all of the other Avengers or heroes overall in the game. This one will get a bit complicated, so I don't know how they'd adapt it, and obviously you'd have to like minimize the amount of possibilities this character would have. And the last Fantastic Four member that I have, which I have seen people talk about, but I just gotta mention on here, is the Silver Surfer. Now, from my brief research to see if this is actually true, and I hope I am correct, Silver Surfer does have some healing abilities in the comics, and we did see it in that, like, what, 2005 movie, whatever it was, Fantastic Four, the Silver Surfer movie. He did heal Sue Storm in that, so I could see Silver Surfer in some capacity being a strategist, which I think will be cool because we need some faster strategists inside of the game. You know, we have Jeff the Shark and Luna Snow, but seeing a flying one would kind of change up the possibilities of healing inside of the game. And of course, Silver Surfer does come with the surfing board itself. Now, as for the version of Silver Surfer that I would like to see, obviously I'd like to see the normal version. I can't actually remember his name, but the movie that we're going to be receiving this year is from an alternate universe where there's a female version of the Silver Surfer. So anything would do, in my opinion. Either way, I think it will be really cool, and that's it for the Fantastic Four members. Next up is just kind of a character in the middle, and that is Luke Cage, who I think of course could be a Vanguard. Luke Cage is all about, you know, being strong and powerful, and I think it will be really cool, but it will be a close competitor with what, like, I think Hulk and maybe the Thing will be going up against each other, being like ability wise of just going in and punching stuff up. You could also add in more of the defenders in the Luke Cage category, especially since now we have an Iron Fist inside the game. I don't entirely know if the Luke Cage that we know and that Iron Fist know each other as well in the comics, because I know the Iron Fist that we have has only been in a limited supply of comics. I don't know if their chemistry would be as good, but I think it would be still really cool to see a Luke Cage. Next up is a huge section on Spider-Man. I am just just a huge Spider-Man fanboy all of my life, so let's just get right into it and go through it as fast as possible. First up is Dr. Octopus, or Doc Ock. This one I think would change up the game in an insane amount of ways. The possibility of having the arms and just capabilities of what Doc Ock could do inside of the game would be really cool, and of course it will be a Vanguard because I wouldn't have it any other way. The next character is Rhino, who I would of course see as the Vanguard. He has to be one of my favorite villains of Spider-Man. I know he's not like as infamously famous and as villainous, but he's just a goofball, and I absolutely love rhinos, so I think this one will be really cool. And of course another Vanguard to add on. We need more Vanguards and strategists, like really bad. And then of course I can't go on without mentioning all of the Spider-Man versions that I would love to see. First up is Miles Morales, which I think is one of the most obvious ones that would be very different from what Peter Parker does inside the game. Now obviously Miles Morales' Spider-Man powers are very similar, web slinging, web crawling, punching and stuff like that, but he also has Venom Strike and going invisible, which I think would be really cool, and they already have the invisible capabilities with Sue Storm inside of the game. Next up I have Silk, who is obviously basically just Peter Parker's abilities. I'm pretty sure they got bit by the exact same spider, but I still think it'll be really cool to see. And the last one is Gwen Stacy, which if they would adapt it similar as it is in the movies, the Across the Spider-Verse and Into the Spider-Verse movies, she kind of borderlines more musician, so I think she could have more abilities that are like music based with Spider-Man abilities. I think that could be really cool and really unique to see. Next up is another one kind of in the middle, more Avengers based, and that is Vision, who I think would personally maybe work best as a strategist. I don't know if that would work because Vision doesn't really have many healing abilities and it is just a robot, but how can you have Wanda inside of the game and not have Vision, because they're just a pair? And I think Vision would have really cool abilities of warping through walls, and just overall would be a really cool character that could either be a duelist or a strategist. Now moving on to the X-Men, I did have this list pretty chunky, but two of them are already going to be added in the future, and that was Cyclops and Professor X. But the next one I have up is the Beast. I saw a really cool fan theory on Twitter, which I gotta mention, and that is Beast being a strategist who could create like potions and stuff and throw them at enemies. I know it's a bit of a far-fetched, but I think this will be really cool and really unique. Or of course put him as a Vanguard, as a tank, which could also work. And the last X-Men character is Mystique. Now Mystique's powers are kind of already wasted inside of the game in my opinion with Loki. I know Loki's thing is to impersonate characters, but let's be honest, Mystique's thing is way more similar to what Loki's ult is. She could have literally turned into anyone and gotten their ult itself, which I guess they could adapt in some kind of way if it's more like, oh, I'm gonna look at you, steal your ability to punch and steal your ability to grapple and steal your ability to do this, and then her ult the same thing as Loki. I think they shot themselves in the foot by giving Loki those abilities, but Mystique would be really cool to see. I guess she could just more be like shape-shifting and be more like, oh, you think she's on your team fighting the other people, but she actually isn't, because she's Mystique and she secretly starts beating you up even though all of the colors and stuff on her are the exact same. I guess that's how she could work, but of course she'd be a duelist. Next up is again a bit of an odd section. It kind of goes on for a while from here. The first one up is Man-Thing. The first time I got introduced to Man-Thing was in Werewolf by Night by MCU on Disney Plus, which is fantastic, and I think it will be really cool and really creepy and really unique to see this character inside of the game. And of course I'd have him as a tank or a Vanguard. Next up is Ghost Rider, which we think he is leaked but also not leaked. I'm still gonna put him on this list. I think the capabilities of anything with him would be really cool, from his motorcycle being an ultimate where he all of a sudden starts riding through players. Sounded really weird, but I think it would be really cool. And just again, he's Ghost Rider. He's such a good character that I'm really excited to hopefully see adapted into live action as well at some point. We've been absolutely starved of Ghost Rider. Come on, give him to us. Come on. And of course he'd be a duelist. Next one up is a bit of a bizarre one, Howard the Duck. I think you just gotta add the goofy characters from the comics, and of course Howard the Duck is very goofy. I think he could work as a duelist, or you could kind of pair him up with what Rocket does, where you think Rocket would be a duelist but he became a healer or a strategist. This is the point where I get to mention Nova finally, so of course I would love to see Nova. Obviously he will be a duelist. I wouldn't be able to see him as anything else. I don't know which version of Nova. It gets a bit complicated and I guess I don't know it as in depth, but again, seeing a Nova inside of the game would be really cool. This next section is the Guardians of the Galaxy section. I guess you could have said that Nova and Howard the Duck are kind of like it just because of the games and also the movies themselves, but But of course, where is Drax and Gamora? I think Drax could work as a Vanguard and Gamora could work as a duelist, of course. The reason I'm asking where the hell are they is because we don't have them inside the game. The characters keep mentioning them and they are supposedly lost. It's a matter of time until we see them, but obviously it will be really cool. Now Drax could be a duelist, but I think maybe kind of expanding more and having him being an actual Vanguard will make it way more unique and way cooler in my opinion. Of course, Gamora would be a duelist. I wouldn't really see her as anything else. She would kind of be like Black Widow, I guess, with her abilities, but that's another one where I don't know enough on the character, and I'm not saying I'm a professional. Another one that I would love to see is Yondu, and more specifically the Yondu that we had in the movies with the whistling of the arrow flying around the place. I think having an ultimate where you get to control the arrow to go through like the characters and insta-kill them would be really cool, or just activate it and it just starts taking out people in like a little vicinity of a circle that you have around you. I think that could work very well. And now something that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about, and that is the Inhumans. They have really been just forgotten about, which is a big shame because there's three that I would love to see, which are the three most famous ones. First up is Black Bolt. I don't exactly know how you'd make him work. He would, I think, work as a duelist. The reason I'm saying is I don't know how he would work is because of course he has the power of his voice to like do some insane things, so I don't know how you'd like limit it to be not too powerful to like murder everyone in the overall area. Next one up is Medusa. The fact that she uses her hair as like a weapon, I think I could see a combination of Venom's kind of like tentacles attacking, and also a bit of like a Wanda where maybe her ultimate would just be her hair like killing people again in the overall area. Another one that I don't know too much about, but I think will be really cool. And of course, the last one that I gotta mention is Lockjaw, which, come on, we gotta see a Lockjaw. He could work as anyone, as a tank because he's huge, as a duelist because why not, and also as a strategist. I think he would more borderline go towards strategist or duelist, teleport players around the place. It would be really cool and offer some really unique opportunities. So I know this list was really big and really long. It was honestly just me adding on and on and on and on, and I had to limit myself. Marvel Rivals has the potential of adding an infinite amount of characters, and from what we heard recently, they said every month and a half you'll be getting a new character. So, you know, it's just a matter of time until we see some of these. I think it'll be really cool and really fun to play as some of them. And I know, I guess I don't know enough about most of these characters, but I'm a Marvel fan of the movies. I read some comics here and there. The Secret Invasion comic before the show. You can understand how disappointed I was in that show. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more Marvel Rivals content, definitely be sure to subscribe, be sure to drop a like at the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.